Welcome. Today we're reading chapter 18 of The Great Cosmic Mother. The Earth Mound is cosmic womb of the pregnant goddess. Silbury Hill, situated on the Wiltshire Downs in southwest England, is the largest surviving image of the goddess from Neolithic Europe. It's 520 feet in diameter and 130 feet high and is over 4,500 years old. For hundreds of years, male archaeologists have been excavating the mound, desperately hoping to find within it the Bronze Age burial remains of an ancient Essex king. But, as Michael Dames points out in Silbury Treasure, the Great Goddess Rediscovered, Neolithic culture was based on kinship, not kingship. In Dames's view, the Silbury Mound expresses a vision of cosmic unity long lost to patriarchy. Silbury Hill was the primordial belly, the omphalos or navel of the world. The sacred mountain emerged from the waters of chaos, the world egg born from the primordial sea of night. It is the throne who is the squatting goddess, the white mountain, the navel of waters. The Indo-European root for hill, kel, also meant a concealed sacred place, Germanic haljo, and was probably related to halig, meaning holy. The mountain was always a generator of energy, inspiring the high state of madness and prophecy, giving oracular powers. It is the world axis where the different levels of psychic physical experience interpenetrate, the threshold between the underworld, earth, and sky, from which all creation emerges. From the mountain, the shaman begins his ecstatic journey. In Britain, there are 1,500 hilltops with large enclosures on their summits, encircled by earthen banks. These earthworks look like coiled serpents and were used as ritual mazes. According to Michael Dames, Silbury Hill contains a vegetable core surrounded by layers of chalk, gravel, soil, and clay. Radiating from this core are spokes of twisted string looking like umbilicals. This central axis is surrounded by sarsen stones, which are covered with earth dug from the surrounding quarry, originally filled with water. The surface of the mother's body was water, and she contained within herself earth, water, air, and fire, sunlight reflected in the moat. The hill and its ditch, a convex hill and concave hole, create together the image of the goddess squatting in the Neolithic birth position, tranquil and stable, ready to give birth to the world. The Neolithic farming communities had a nonlinear sense of time, believing that time began anew with each new year. The pregnant mountain mother gave birth in August. Spring planted in her womb had grown large. At that time, the entire community came with her. The divine birth and the harvest of the wheat, and the first fruits were offered to the goddess. Similar mysteries were enacted in the Eleusis around Demeter, the grain mother. In Britain, she was known as Bride Anna or Danu, and she was celebrated on her womb mounds in August, as late as the 17th century AD. Great assemblies of witches traditionally gathered on Lammas Eve, August 1st, the people believing that their welfare in the coming year depended on the performance of these sacred rites of the Corn Mother or Harvest Queen. The Christian church throughout Britain finally took drastic action against this pagan cult worship. The Christian priesthood preaches linear, not cyclic time, hoping to separate man from the goddess of nature and God from the great cosmic rhythms of creation. As many wise people have observed, the way to control human life is to control the rhythm of life. Pagan life was ruled by natural cyclic rhythms. The church opposed these female rhythms with linear historic ones, thus trying to change human rhythm from natural to mechanical, which serves the industrial process but leaves human life and labor, including agricultural life and labor, quite alienated. As Dames says, both lunar and solar phenomena, particularly the solstices and equinoxes, were studied by the late Neolithic farming communities, who used a solar calendar to determine annual agricultural events, while the months, from the word moon, and the daily rhythms were linked to more ancient lunar calendar. In the ancient world, the full moon was birth time for all life. The ceremonial birth at Silbury was celebrated on the night of the full moon closest to the fixed solar quarter day or Sabbat of Lammas. Silbury Hills drew up power, water, from the underworld, and drew down power, light, from the sky. When these elements were joined within her body, the universal birth took place. The birth and death of light could be witnessed from her summit, both occurring at the same moment as the sun rose and the moon set, and again after 12 hours, the reverse. All equinoctial settings of sun and full moon, according to Dames, mark the positions of the goddess's mote eye. At Silbury, the interaction between the hill mother and the river mother is one and bisexual. The moon is born from the water and gives birth on the water. The goddess at Silbury is also the eye goddess, as the moon and light are reflected in the moat, an image of the indivisibility of mind and matter, eye and womb, as well as their transformation through the tomb. When death was formed by the mother, everything was born, both dead and alive, and processed by nature. Earth was seen in its totality, and the people recognized death as one of the sources of first fruit ceremonies. This was the psychic orientation of pagan agriculturalists. Long before, in Dame's words, war was declared on the human body with the emergence of patriarchal warrior societies in the Bronze Age. Silbury Hill is comparable to the temples on Malta. To sleep within such a goddess shape would itself have been a ritual act. Recent excavations on the Orkney Islands of Scotland have revealed whole Neolithic villages, up to 60 houses, designed in the shape of a goddess body. Individual houses made of stone and mud on Skara Brae are shaped like uteruses with vaginal entranceways. Stone temples in Malta are carved and built in the shape of the massive Paleolithic Great Mother, and small figurines of the Great Goddess in the same form are found throughout Malta. The West Kennet Long Barrow in England is built in the same identical shape. The large Metamud Temple in Egypt and the Bryn Celli Dhu Mound in Wales are the same body. The Great Earth Mound belly, open thighs of stone, the entrance portal open for the passage of birth and death. Worldwide, architecture was the mother of arts, as women built to live within her body shape. Dogon villages in Africa were constructed in the shape of a bisexual human figure lying on its back. The village represents the first vibration of the cosmic egg. It's built in the center of fields cut in spirals. At the southern end is a cone-shaped shrine, the penis. A hollowed stone nearby, on which the fruit is pressed for oil, is the vagina. Menstrual huts to the east and west sides of the village are hands. Both sexes carry out the agricultural work of these bisexual villages. Primal people understand quite clearly that the shape of one's dwellings is the shape of one's life. The white goddess of pagan Britain was the mother of the good and the fertile soil of the chalklands, white as the full moon. All her creation, including stones and minerals, was organic and animated. Her body permeated all the latter Avebury monuments on the Wiltshire Downs. This area is rich in sarsen stones, massive blocks of hard sandstone which lay on the surface of the hills and didn't need to be quarried. These stones were called bride stones. Bride, Brigid, was one of the goddess's names. The white horse, a large turf-cut figure on the hillside of Uffington in Berkshire, is an evocation of Epona, the Celtic horse goddess. Dragon Hill was nearby, was a Neolithic first fruits ceremonial site. Folklore tells that the white sterile patch on its summit was caused by the execution of the life-giving dragon goddess at the hands of a patriarchal solar hero. Where her blood fell, nothing will grow. One such dragon slayer or serpent killing hero is Saint Michel. Many of the earliest Christian churches in Britain dedicated to Saint Michel were built precisely on the ancient mounds and high places of the great goddess. In Christian lore, Saint Michel was the head chief of a band of angels, read patriarchal invaders that went to war with the mother dragon and her people. In folklore, Saint Michel is thought to be the successor of Wotan, the Anglo-Saxon god, who is like a warlike slayer of dragons. In fact, an abnormal member of Christian churches dedicated to Saint Michel and Saint George, the other British dragon slayer, are built on high places along the ley line or dragon path that runs from Land's End in Cornwall through the goddess monuments at Glastonbury and Avebury in southwest England. Such as Saint Michel's church was built on the summit of Glastonbury Tor, but in the year 1300 AD, it was destroyed by an earthquake. As Elizabeth G. Davis notes, all the Christian male angels were originally the great goddess with her wings. When the image of the winged goddess continued to be engraved on Roman coins in defiance of the new Christian hierarchy in Constantinople, who had smashed or taken over all of her Roman temples, the church fathers just changed her name to the Angel of the Lord, Archangel Michael. Glastonbury Tor is a spiral mound with a processional way, along which a dance was performed by the community, circling around and up to the top. Glastonbury means glass castle. Glass castles in Welsh, Irish, and Manx legend were island shrines or star prisons ruled by the white moon goddess of poetry and ritual death. In medieval legend, they were made of glass. In Neolithic times, they were goddess mounds of birth and death. Original rites at Glastonbury were aimed at restoring the bird and flower life of spring, perhaps. The mound was a magnetic center for the absorption and refraction of generative energies, to which animal, bird, and plant life responded. And women, as the ancient farmers and beekeepers, performed the rites. Glastonbury was probably the enchanted isle of Avalon. Lands flowing with milk and honey in the Bible as original Edens were in fact the lands of the Neolithic goddess. Milk belongs to the mother, and since women were the first beekeepers, and honeybee has always symbolized matriarchy. North African and Thracian Amazon legendarily fed on honey and mare's milk, along with blood, raw meat, and reed marrow. The Indo-Europeans inherited beekeeping from the Minoans of Crete, who practiced it from the beginning of the Neolithic. Cretans believed that the death of the sacrificial bull, the goddess was reborn as a bee. Thus, bull-born goddess of transformation and regeneration, both bee and bull belong to the moon. The bull, because of its crescent horns, while the bees make the sweet light of honey within the night darkness of the hive. At Ephesus, where many-breasted Artemis Diana was worshipped, the bee appeared as her cult animal. Her temple at Ephesus was a symbolic beehive built by priestesses known as one of the wonders of the ancient world. Her priestesses were called Melissal, bees, and the eunuch priests were Essenes, drones. Thus, the beehive shape of so many Neolithic earth mounds was quite intentional and symbolic. Beekeeping was a metaphor for settled agriculture and for the peaceful abundance of the earth in those times. And the honeybee was like the full moon, making illumination in the night. In Ireland, in Brittany and Wales, and in Scandinavia, the fairies with their fairy queen are still believed to be living in the earth mounds or tomb dwellings. The Swedish sagas about trolls are obviously distorted tales about ancient moon-worshipping people. The trolls are said to live inside mountains, to be dressed in skins, to eat human flesh, to exist in both human and animal form, and to die if caught in the rays of the sun. They live by night, by moonshine. So in Ireland, the fairy people said to live inside the burial mounds are Tuatha De Danann, people of the goddess Danu, displaced and driven underground by later patriarchal invaders. The Dananns were matrilinear, and their goddess was the mother of all magic, art, and craft. Halloween was originally Samhain, one of the four great cross-quarter days, or sabbats, of the witch year in pagan Britain. Originally on this Night of All Souls, priestess oracles sat at the stone portals of the earth mounds, or mass burial chambers, while the spirits of heroic dead passed in and out, visiting the world just once before the great death of winter. In North America, Neolithic farming cultures also built earth mounds. The earliest, dating from 1000 BC, were found throughout the Southeast by early explorers. From Florida and Georgia into West Virginia, Kentucky, and the Tennessee Valley, and west into Arkansas and Oklahoma. Ohio was the site of two great mound building Native American cultures. The Adena, dating circa 800 BC to 8900, built conical mounds. The Hopewell, 600 BC to 1500, elaborated on the earlier structures, building huge mounds and earthen embankments covering hundreds of acres. Both these cultures built mounds. Later people in the Southeast built temple mounds, large earthworks with temples on the top, but no burial chambers within. Ohio is the site of the Great Serpent Mound of the Adena culture. The Serpent Mound is 1,400 feet long, made of earth in the shape of a snake winding around the cosmic egg, the maternal ovum. Many American Indian cultures were not mound builders, but most believe that their ancestors emerged with such mounds, or from some structure symbolizing the earth's pregnant belly. The Hopi and other Southwest tribes still go into kivas, underground chambers, for initiation into the presence of the earth spirit. And the Great Pyramids of Mexico and Central America were built up generation after generation over original earth mound structures. Mexico means navel of the moon.